Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. And if you didn't watch the throwback scheme show that Michael Carey and I did last night, you first off, you should. But this guy was mentioned on here. He's had a lot of conversation around him, but the man, the myth, the legend is here. Kyle Sykes, the designer for Trackhouse Racing, is here with us right now. Kyle, I cannot thank you enough for coming on.
Well, of course, man. I always appreciate anytime someone can shed some light on the designer in the sport, and I'm just really grateful to be in the position I am right now with Trackhouse and all the momentum we're having right now. So appreciate you having me.
Before we get started, let's kind of we'll talk about the throwbacks a little bit later, but I want to kind of start with how you kind of got started doing this design stuff.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of a lengthy story, but
yeah.
To kind of sum it all up, I always kind of wanted to figure out how I could work in NASCAR. I live in Wisconsin, and I currently do right now, and I knew, I have roots here, and I didn't really feel like I could get up and move to Charlotte, North Carolina, and find a career in NASCAR. And so, one day I just decided I wanted to create a little side passion project, and I created an Instagram account and just started pumping out concept paint scheme designs. And then, that was really before, you go on there today and there's a lot of those accounts. I'm not going to say I was the pioneer for that, but kind of caught it at the right time where it seemed to draw a lot of attention. And, I started getting noticed, won a couple contests, which I was very, very thankful for. That kind of opened the door for me to land where I am today. And then in 2020, I got an email from Ty Norris, the president of Trackhouse. And I honestly thought it was a spam message. I was like, there's no way this is Ty Norris, like Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, Michael Waltrip Racing, Ty Norris. And it was, and we got on the phone, and he basically just said, hey, we're going to be creating this new race team called Trackhouse, and saw your stuff online, got a referral for you. Would you mind helping us out? And I was like, well, man, yeah, of course, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is too good to be true. So it wasn't, and it happened. And they flew me out to Nashville and interviewed with them. And since then I've been full-time as the creative director, uniquely working from Wisconsin, and traveling to the race shop and races every now and then. But man, what a dream, really, how it all happened. Super, super surreal, and very grateful for it. But that's kind of how it all happened. And it's very much so a pinch me type thing where it's like, man, this is real life.
So let's talk about, some of the schemes that you designed. You know what? Let's just get into this. The two schemes that you designed for this weekend's Goodyear 400, the two throwback schemes, throwing it back to when Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr. ran at Motegi, Japan back in 1998. Whose idea was that?
Well, I always like to remain very humble with things. This was an idea that I presented to Justin and Ty. And, as you see a lot of cars, they end up throwing back to a specific time or driver or sponsor, but they don't necessarily always have the sponsor on the car. And you see a lot of those today. And I really wanted to say, hey, Coke is a partner of ours. Can we present this idea to them? And they ended up really liking it. It was a massive undertaking, though. I mean, quick turnaround given the scale and of Coca-Cola, just to kind of get that all the way to the top to get that approved. But obviously, like we do everything as a team, and we none of this all happens without all the moving pieces and parts within our organization. So it was an idea that initially just kind of was sparked by me just sending Justin a bunch of photos. I mean, there was other throwback ideas in there, but this one was like, man, we could make this a duo like of two cars, and that has never been done with the original partner. And we have the one car, and we can stylize the 99 as the three. So yeah, I'm so thrilled with how it turned out.
Okay. That was that. Then I'll say a lot of people are giving you a lot of credit for doing that, and I'm just going to say this. I know that you are very good at what you do. Just so you know.
Well, thank you.
I know you're very humble about a lot of this stuff and growing up there and all that. So,
Well,
but,
and the one thing I want to say is
yeah,
I am so lucky to do what I get to do every day. I know that so many people would kill to be in the position I'm in,
absolutely.
and I never want to take that for granted. I always want to be grounded. I always want to remain thankful, and I always want to hold on to those pinch me moments where it's like, I cannot believe I'm doing this. So that's just one thing I've told myself from the start here, is that I don't ever want to lose those. And the second I do, maybe that's a sign that I need to move on. But I don't at this point. I don't anticipate that ever happening, because I'm doing what I love to do every single day, and that's what everyone is always told. Find something you love to do, and you won't work a day in your life. So, don't get me wrong, man. I have late nights. We grind, and we have some tough challenges, but I wouldn't trade any of it. I mean, I'm so lucky for it.
Yeah. So let's. I know you with the font. How challenging was it to create some of like, especially on Ross's one car, to create the polar bear and kind of recreate a lot of that stuff from the other cars?
Yeah, well, that's a whole other story. I believe, and I could be wrong. I feel like that one car was originally created by Sam Bass, and I'm not sure if that's 100% correct, but Coke did not have those bears in their archives. So we did have to recreate those. I did have some assistance on those from another designer at Trackhouse that was helping me. So very fortunate for that. But just like it was a massive undertaking, just like planning the unveil with Dale Jr., getting him involved, and all that. But it was very rewarding to see the response from the fans and from Dale Jr. himself, and just to see how excited people were. And in my mind, that's what Throwback Weekend's all about, is like, let's do a legit throwback. Let's do it as legit as we can, given the guidelines we have today with these current cars, and what partners are on the car. But I feel like we got as close to it as we legally could on certain things, and it turned out really well.
So let's talk about that for a second. Trying to get with the guidelines. I know it's different with every sponsor. How when you design a car, like you can design a car one way, they give it to the sponsor, and how to just explain how all that works.
Well, I think we're in a unique situation where Justin gives me so much creative freedom. Him and I actually work very closely on a lot of these things, because I think, as the public probably knows, Justin cares very much about how Trackhouse, how the image of Trackhouse is perceived out to the public, because we've always focused from day one. We want to be different. We want to be unique, and we don't just want to exist as another race team. We want to be outside the box, and with that comes the designs that are on track. We want to stand out, and we want to be different, and that plays right into my wheelhouse. Like, that is what I want. That's what I set out to do from day one with paint scheme design. I wanted to put something that was eye-catching out on the racetrack, because to new fans or current fans that sit in the stands, what is your eye drawn to on the track? You want a bold, cool looking paint scheme. And I felt like, as the early to late 2010s, like, we were going away from that a little bit, and I wanted to kind of, that was my whole mindset of creating this concept paint scheme like Instagram, is to just bring more of that boldness back with these designs. So I know I'm talking a lot, but so Justin gives me a lot of creative freedom, and I'm very fortunate that a lot of the times the sponsors do too, within guidelines of their brand. But they let me run with it a lot of the times too. And Minus some small tweaks here and there. For the most part, man, it's like they give me free reign on these things to just go hard and just present something crazy to them, and then maybe we dial it down from there. But that's the cool thing, is like they're just like, yeah, let me see what you got, and then we'll kind of go at it from there. And that's when I feel like the best work is done, is like not put in a box. It's like they just like, hey, go at it, and we'll dial it down if needed.
Talk about designing the 99.
The number?
Yeah, I mean the number and maybe the paint scheme too a little bit.
Well, from the start, we wanted to have an ID on these cars, like something that you could identify a Trackhouse car. So, the slash was the way of doing that. And from the start, that was a challenge in itself, because per the NASCAR rule book, you're not allowed to have an element impeding through a number. So we got an exception on that one, just because, I think of the vision and kind of the plan that Justin was laying out to NASCAR, and it ended up working out really nicely, that it ended up being something that we could do. And then that obviously that carried over to the one. And so we just like to have that brand continuity, that, someone can recognize at the track that slash, is the same as this slash, and it represents our brand and kind of like our identity for sure. So I think that was a cool challenge. And then as far as just like the paint schemes, again, from the start, was just given creative freedom on a lot of those. And a lot of times Justin's like, man, go crazy. And I do. So
talk about, I know that over the years designers have kind of maybe gotten not a lot of attention over the years. I know it's gotten better, obviously when your good friend and mine as well, of course, Michael Carey, who used to be at TobyChristie.com, now at the SRX.
Yep.
Obviously he kind of started the whole, let's start crediting designers. And I think it's now, it still has a long way to go, but it's getting there.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that designers in the sport do owe him a lot, just because he was a media member who was shedding light on it.
Yes.
Which then, other media members started to take notice of, and then teams started to notice. And just recently, like I got a shout out on Dale Jr. Download from my owner and Dale Jr., where Dale Jr. then said, designers are the unsung heroes of the sport.
Yes, they are.
And that is just an incredible thing, really. I mean, there are so many unsung heroes of these race teams. I mean, you think about the travel people that plan all the travel, the guys that work on these cars, that build them. There's the hauler drivers, like there are so many. And I feel like there's a lot of work that needs to be done to, shed light on these people. And, I'm appreciative that, the designers have, we've created a conversation around that now. But I think, we have work to do to, shed light on, it's more than just the driver and the crew chief. There are a lot of people that pour their heart and soul into this and work long hours and spend time away from their families. And so yeah, it's really cool that designers are starting to get recognized. And I think Michael did a great job kind of starting that movement. And I'd like to think that it's only going to grow from here. I mean, now that you have big names talking about it, owners starting to talk about it, I would like to think that, it's only going to continue to grow upwards on that.
Well, what has Justin Marks meant to you?
Man, Justin is, he is the most down-to-earth, genuine person that you'll meet. And he just happens to be a NASCAR Cup Series owner. He makes you feel important, no matter who you are on the team, no matter who, even if you're not on the team. He's just a great person. He is a genius when it comes to just like an entrepreneurial sense and like a creative sense. He has such big ideas, and he's so focused on being unique and different that it has created this culture at Trackhouse that has everyone just so pumped up to do what they get to do every day. Where I think it's very similar to me. Like, they don't have to go to work. They get to go to work because we work for Trackhouse. And he has done an amazing job. He'll walk down on that shop floor and he'll talk to, the guys installing the cars, the guys that are underneath the cars, everyone. He'll talk to everyone. And you don't necessarily see that with owners these days. And we'll get emails, company-wide emails from him, just with inspirational things after a good run and after wins. And he just does so much for his people, and he goes to battle for all of us. And he's just an awesome person who quite frankly, in my eyes, is the best owner in the sport to work for. And that's his goal, is to make Trackhouse the place that everyone wants to be at. And I can say straight up that he's there right now, I would imagine. And the fact that we're seeing success, it's just gonna make that even more apparent that people want to be here, and he is the reason why.
Yeah, for sure. Are you surprised? And last question: are you surprised, with all the attention that you're not just designers, but just you yourself is getting?
I am. I think there's a fine line, because I have my Kyle Sykes Designs accounts,
Yeah.
but I'm a Trackhouse employee. I like to share what I do, but those aren't Kyle Sykes Design specials. Those are track. I'm an employee of Trackhouse. And I think that's the thing I always want to make sure that it's not like I'm a freelancer for Trackhouse. I get to work full time for Trackhouse.
Right.
And I just want to share from a design standpoint from my accounts what I get to do sometimes, and the things that are cool that's going on that I enjoy to do. But
yeah,
I am kind of surprised. I have some to my surprise, I have some pretty loyal followers that man, if someone trash talks my paint scheme, they're talking to the next guy and they're like, no, man, he's the best. It's I just have these people going to bat for me. And it's I never asked for that. And it means a lot, and it's very cool. And I am by no means a celebrity. I am someone who is just loving life, getting to do what I love to do. And it's cool to have recognition sometimes. I've been at the track a few times where there was one time specifically I went with Daniel Suarez out to an event at the Chevy stage, and someone asked him a question about his paint scheme today. And Daniel turns around on the stage and says, my amigo back here, Kyle, does all of my paint schemes, and he knocks it out of the park every time. And one, how awesome for your driver to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Two, after that, I had a bunch of people find me, and they're like, oh my God, you're Kyle Sykes. I'm like, holy cow, so insane. But it's just so, it's so surreal. It really, it's so surreal to kind of get to do what I love to do, and then have the acknowledgement is just the cherry on top.
All right. Favorite paint scheme that you've done, and most hardest paint scheme you've done?
That's a great question. Well, the original iFly paint scheme that ran in Daytona last year, I don't know why it had a special meaning to me, just because it was the first car on track. Don't get me wrong, I wish I could go back and do things different on it, but at the time I was like, man, this is badass, this is cool. And then ironically, we get our first win with iFly on the side of the car with Ross at COTA. So there's just something about that first one that really was special. But those CommScope cars, they're really cool too. I think they pop with all the colors. And then as far as challenging ones go, boy, that's a good one. I'm trying to think. last year I had a heck of a time with that Camping World car, and I don't know why. Sometimes it's just like when things need to be created on demand, like
Yeah.
the Camping World deal came together so fast that there's a whole process that goes into the creative
Mhm.
on those things, and I couldn't, nothing ever clicked with me, and I had to submit it like in a day. So most times they give me like, oh, we need this by the end of the week or this date. That one was hard, but maybe I'm trying to think of one for this year. Um, let's see, having a brain fart here. So we have, the Advent Health one was a little bit of a challenge just because I wanted to incorporate a watermelon in there and I could not figure out how I could do that. And I wanted to do it in a realistic way, whereas in the past it was kind of cartoonish. So I was like, how can I incorporate it? So I would say at least for like this year, the hardest one was Advent, just because when you start incorporating all those colors that Advent has, and then on top of it, like a watermelon, and then somehow try to do it tastefully, that was a challenge. I think it turned out pretty good. But like I said before, like I wish I could go back, on a lot of these and be like, man, I wish I could do that different. There's things on the Coke throwback cars. I'm like, I wish I go up to these cars and I look at them closely and I'm like, ooh, I could have shaded this different, or I could have done this different. But I think that's the part of me that's like always wanting to be better. And I
Yeah.
think, as much as sometimes it's a weakness, like keeps me keeps me on my toes so that next time I'm aware of that and I pay attention to it, and just hopefully keep kind of going on an upward trajectory on paint schemes and continuing to wow people.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle Sykes, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and talking about this. And congrats on all the paint schemes that you've done, including these two that are going to be running this weekend at Darlington. And we'll have you back sometime. How about that?
Yeah, well, I'd love to. I listen, I mean, I for everyone who watches this and supports me, thank you. It really does mean a lot. Um I'm so appreciative of the support that I get, and then in turn Trackhouse gets. Um, and my DMs are always open. I'm always happy to talk to people and answer any questions from upcoming designers, and help them out, because that's what I would have wanted, kind of making my way in the sport too. And I had people like that, so I'm more than happy to always act as maybe a mentor to someone, or just even give advice. Um, so that's kind of my closing remarks. But thank you, Casey. I appreciate you thinking enough of me to want to talk about this, and I do hope to be back. And thanks again.
Well, you'll be back for sure. Keep up the good work, bud.
All right.